So today I'll be talking about the ISFJ Socionics personality type. I'm going to talk with the Megeg-Ovkorov model description, and then I'll provide you with the video examples of how this model fits certain people personalities in the world today. As a side note, if you're a Myers Briggs fan, I am talking about the ISFP. I refer to it to the socionics term of ISFJ because this socionics is basically Myers Briggs 2.0. It's better. I like it more. I'm trying to convert more people into it. But in any event, if you really are just Myers-Briggs hard-headed, I'm talking about the ISFP, which is the actor personality type. And you'll notice these kind of people are musicians, artists, very quiet, very gentle, client-oriented people. And I'll help provide you with descriptions. So we're just going to dive in right away. So with the introverted feeling subtype, key factors to look for. Just to remove the fat, notice that these types are very modest, gentle, kind of people. So there is a calmness to their approach to the world, and it's mixed with a sense of amiableness and modesty. And this amiableness makes them very kind people, and they're very sincere in their approach to people. And just remember, they are the introverted subtypes, so they tend to be actually more quiet. But this quietness makes them very polite at the same time. They are sensitive, unimposing, and conscientious. They show good manners, so they're very polite with a sense of formality. So it's formality mixture with modesty and politeness and quietness. They try to be gracious and they are refined. They dress with taste. Their facial expressions are often soft, and their interaction with people are very sincere, caring, and courteous. So, just overall short description is best word I would describe them is that they're very amiable, so that's kind and polite, and they're very modest at the same time. So those are the best words to describe them, and as always, you can find these people as chefs, uh, actors at times, and even musicians. So for the other subtype, extrovert sensing, and this actually type is more prevalent, and you'll notice them a lot in Hollywood actors and musicians and people who are just really good in the arts, musician or anything creative outlook. So this type tends to be and this type, I actually have to know a lot of people do get confused, thinking that they're maybe an INTJ or an INFJ, but they're not. It's actually something unique to the ISFJ extrovert sensing subtype, and hopefully you guys will pinpoint them better in the future. But just to make it clear, this type is quite strict, critical, and ironic, and can be categorical. So, and they're trying to appear cool, strong, and self-assured. They're serious, guarded, and private, and conservative in their tastes and habits. So a lot of the times people get these confused with intuitive subtypes because of the cool, strong, and guarded aspects of this personality. I'm telling you, this is mostly a demonstration of their strong introvert intuition, which is their third function for the ISFJ, but it's mostly, this is a key factor I've noticed from a lot of actors, musicians, and a lot of people get confused. They are naturally very just strong. They do present a cool, self-assured, and strong attitude and a guarded and private outlook, and it's just part of their personality. But they're still ISFJs at the end of the day. They at times appear unapproachable, arrogant, and pricky. Their gaze, which is their facial expressions, are often piercing, so it can often seem mixtured with a guarded expression. They dress elegantly, so this can be sensed with a modest conservative outlook, I would mention, and they allow themselves to sometimes wear additional accessories to present their artistic this to present themselves artistically. So overall, just know the keywords I would best to describe them is that they are very cool and self-assured people, but they also present themselves in a strong manner. That's probably the best words to look for this type, but just as clues of examples, these types often are carrying, they can be at, you can find them at nurses at times, but they're also they're very artistic. These are the real artists, I would say. There are there sometimes other artists exist, other personalities, but this is probably one of the best artists. They can be actors, they can be chefs, they can be musicians, they can be anything that involves high sense of creativity. So even movie directors, a lot of the time, are ISFJs, and they do fit this personality. And which brings it to the conclusion that I'm going to show you some video examples from Hollywood and celebrities to present you the introverted feeling and the extroverted sensing, and it gives you a better idea when you spot these kind of personalities amongst celebrities in the future, so it'll help pinpoint them yourselves. So just remember, introvert feeling, modestly amiable, and the extrovert sensing tends to be strong, cool, self-assured, but also can be ironic at the same time. So I'll leave it to that, and I hope the best in your typing skills.
Before anyone knew who I was producing music for other artists. And I had to be able to produce for a rock artist, a hip-hop artist, all kinds of different music. So it's my job to study all kinds of music. So I'm allowed to go into the studio and know what they're talking about, know what worlds they come from. So if I'm a student of music. I'm constantly, for this album, I was constantly thinking about how I could make it better, how I could make the chorus better, different chord progressions, different drum beats. And now that the album's ready and I gotta perform, I'm thinking about, all right, how the light's gonna hit, and how I wanna make sure everyone, we traveled all this way, I wanna make sure everyone has a good time. So I'm always constantly thinking about something involved with music.
Do you ever, what do you do to get some time off?
I like movies, I go to the movies.
You play cards as well?
I do, yeah.
What kind of cards is that?
I used to play poker a lot.
How do you do? I mean, are you any good, or is it like losing a lot of money?
No, I used to play a long time ago. For a long time, I actually, that's how I would pay my rent. And then I stopped.
Just myself, but my son, and even beyond that, I think a little bit of, I went and bought a clean diesel after I had a child because I thought I needed to protect the earth now all of a sudden. I didn't care about that before. It changes most of your decisions, in everything I do. And obviously I actually find myself being a little less selfish than I have been in the past. Because if you demand anything, or if you want things a certain way, you become a diva instead of just being someone. I'm picky. I'm very type A, so I like to have control of a lot of things, and I'm far more hands-on, I think, than most folks who do.
Oh, Holy Night in English. First of all, in New Jersey, that was big that I sang in French alone. Just that alone,
Right, yeah.
But there was someone in the audience who told my parents that I should really get some singing lessons. And my parents were not show business people. My father worked for Merck and was someone who set up their employee systems, and my mother was a stay-at-home house. Oh, she would never want me to say that. But she was a very big personality, confined to the home. And they were the teachers who, one taught verse and Shakespearean. Sort of how to speak verse. So she taught us Marlowe and John Donne, lots of.
Same dialect coach, and it was daunting. I'm not going to lie.
You didn't find it easy?
No, because you want it to feel natural and not feel, Finished directing my first film, so we spent most of the meeting just talking about directing, and he was so generous, and I was like, oh, I hope I get to work with him, and then he. Emailed the next day, we'd love to have you. And I was like, wow, really? And
Dude, well, I'm just very grateful or humbled or whatever.
Vulnerable.
Whatever, thing. He's just when he was going to go on the show, just say how humbled and grateful you are all the time, which a lot of people do.
Okay.
You can tell he was doing that.
At this point.
Is you see people come on who think they're supposed to play a role. I think the people who have the most success is the people who don't think about the cameras and just kind of let themselves be a part of that insane process.
Yeah.
And sometimes, say things that they, oh, should I have said that or not? People go in there and just kind of immerse themselves and not necessarily worry about how they might come across. I think over time, usually are the people who come across as the most authentic.
Huge difference. What we're doing at the Clooney Foundation, we have a few things we're working on, but one of the things we're doing that's important is that a lot of governments now are using trials and courts to create and to commit crimes. It used to be that they would just commit crimes, and now they try to have this legitimacy out of sort of sham trials. And part of what we're doing with this is to finance monitors to be able to go into these trials. So if there's a...
Yeah, the loss of privacy, kind of, even more than just the loss of privacy, the sort of aggressive invasion on your privacy, on your private life. It's very strange because you are treated in some circumstances as a novelty. And that's a very uncomfortable position to be in. I mean, mostly by this, particularly like the paparazzi, they have a tendency to be pretty aggressive. Georgie Jessel.
Oh, I heard about this, yeah. Give me your best Jessel.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Georgie Jessel here. It got so bad, I mean, our obsession with Georgie Jessel, that literally they'd roll camera and the guy would do the sticks, and I'd just be getting ready to walk into frame, you know, to begin the scene, and suddenly I would hear, and action! And it was Tim doing Georgie Jessel. And then, of course, at the end of the scene, cut! You know? So we were sort of obsessed with Georgie Jessel, and why aren't there people like Georgie Jessel today?
Who wanted to make a movie. I'm here because 17 years ago, I came to this country and fell in love with its people and learned about its history, and in doing so realized how little I actually knew in my early 20s about the world. And so this country for me has been was my awakening, and my son changed my life. Becoming a Cambodian family changed my life. So there was never a plan we should make this movie. It's just I became a filmmaker, and one day I thought, what story do I feel is really important to tell? And I felt that this war that happened 40 years ago and what happened to these people was not properly understood. And not just for the world, but for the people of the country. I felt that I wanted them to be able to reflect on it in a way.
Started it all actually was just people coming up over the years and saying that, when are you going to do another one? And we really love this. And I think, it was happening to Paul Greengrass over in England, and it was happening to me here. And I think just in aggregate, people coming up year after year, kind of humbled us to the point where we went, it's really cool to have an audience that really wants something, and I've certainly made movies where that didn't find an audience. So you've interviewed me for a bunch of those.
Society, when we don't have such a vast chasm between the haves and the have-nots, we need that middle ground that we call the middle class. The people who buy everything, people who use the products that the rich are creating, if they're creating anything other than wealth, right? Right. So it's what's happening with the Chinese economy right now. They're changing their whole outlook because they need consumers. Yeah. And without a middle class, you're not going to have consumers. You understand?
Mullen formed the band. It was called the Larry Mullen Band. And in very many ways, it still is the Larry Mullen Band.
Really?
And yeah. And it's the drums. There's a special relationship between drums and voices. These are ancient communications, probably the two earliest communications. Guttural bird sounds. I'm sure that's how singing made itself known. Drums.
At Common's crib, just down the street here in LA, they were staying together. And I just remember looking at that MPC and thinking, like, those drums came out of that MPC. Like, arguably the best drums in hip-hop history. And just remember just vibing with him and having so much respect and just wanting to work with him more.
What was the time like that you two spent together? Was it focused around music?
Yeah, we only focus on music. Me and Common, would go play basketball and go to the movies and hang and all that, but me and Dilla, we just, you know, focus on just tracks.
Weird thing, I mean, the jobs are all very different. Directing's my favorite because it means that the writing's done for the most part, and that the producer has done whatever needs to get done to actually get to the place where you're filming something. But they're all critically important roles. As a writer myself, working on Star Trek was a wonderful thing because though I wasn't technically a writer on those films, I got to collaborate with people who had wonderful, great, big ideas, but also get to, on the fly, every day, adjust scenes and make changes that felt right. The actors were often offering.
That's right.
Well, I do have one, but I don't have access to it. I don't know the password, so I can't log in to look at stuff. So I was just looking at what was there if, like, your granddad looked on Twitter, you know, sort of like that. And then there was, like, 2 tweets, so I was like, oh, my God, no one likes it. No one cares. And then my boyfriend, who does have a Twitter account, was, like, laughing, just going through it all. And it just exploded. And that was, like, 8 weeks ago. It wasn't that long ago that it happened. So I like to try and be a little bit, not give everything away all the time, so that I can surprise people with things sometimes. So if I had a password to Twitter, maybe I'd be on it all the time, which means that no one would miss me. Yeah. Because
in which order, I mean, the industry has changed so much, but there will be a few new songs. We are putting the show together, and just to be there, to be part of it, and there's going to be opening acts before, and we're gonna have Dave, I think there's gonna be 4 or 5 opening acts before. This whole thing is just unbelievable. And I'm gonna be finishing Vegas. It's gonna be emotional, and it's kind of a good thing that I'm so long without having something to get back on the adrenaline, be back on stage.
Actual very grave moment. We were really extremely thoughtful, and what was so special about it is the song really became a communication between men and women. Can I talk to you and will you listen?
Yeah.
Do you want to be in the deep with me, or do you want to stay in the shallow? Do you want more? You know, it's a very special moment, a very special song in my heart, and I also produced it with Ben Rice, who is an amazing up-and-coming producer, and I love him very much.
You're incredible.
You know what? It is a lot. It's a lot of work, and the work is never done. It's like having a lot of kids and having to give them all attention at the same time. And it's overwhelming, but I love what I do, and I love to stay busy.
Any other new business?
You don't know about it. I can't talk about it.
You can talk about it. You can hint.
I definitely am in the studio working on music, and I'm working on 100 other things, but a couple of things are really top secret, so I can't say it.
For sure, yeah. There's times where I'm just like, man, this is a lot. I just want to go home. I'm just like exhausted. I'm tired. But I just also remember what I want in life and what I'm striving for. And I'm striving for the best career possible, and to have the most people be able to listen to my music and be touched by my music. So you got to do the other stuff that not necessarily what you love, but it goes along with everything else.